Facebook have issues. All
Balls.
right,
Whoa.
here we go. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, you ready?
Okay.
Are you
Everybody ready?
I don't have a pen. I got a pen.
You're listening to Inside Real Estate, your source for all things mortgage and real estate related. The show that brings you all the hottest topics and insights directly from those who know it most. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
What's up, everyone? Paul Pasalakis, Mr.
morning.
Salvatore Cusmano is here today. How are you?
I'm good.
Looking good. Beautiful
Thanks.
blazer you've got on.
Yeah, different one today.
Yeah.
I like the elbow patches.
Yeah.
I mean, I've blown countless elbows out of my shirt.
Brad Weisgerber came in wearing something totally different. Looks fantastic. I don't know what happened, but you look good.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to start the show off by saying thank you to all our subscribers on our podcast. If you are listening, please make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. Go to our website at www.irepodcast.com. Really appreciate the support. We can't do what we do without you, so thank you to all of you. We have a really, really special guest today. We have Mayor Michael Fournier. Am I saying that right? Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Is it
All right.
French? It's French. Yeah. Michael, do you go by Mike or Mike? You go by Mike. You got to go by Mike, right? Or
Well, as mayor, I go by a lot of names,
Yeah.
but Mike is.
All right. So Mike is the mayor of Royal Oak, Michigan. It's just for all our listeners out there across the country and actually across the world. Royal Oak is a really, really interesting place in Michigan. It's really grown quite a bit. It's becoming like a destination type city. It's got a beautiful, thriving downtown. It's interesting. I'm going to go through a list of a lot of the projects that are happening right now. But I wanted you to introduce yourself and kind of give us some of your background and how you became mayor and how you got to this point.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
My journey into the elected arena began back in 2011. Our city, the country, the nation was really coming out of the Great Recession. And unlike a lot of businesses, communities, especially in Michigan, really struggled financially. We have a lot of older, antiquated policies and laws and statutes that prevent cities from really rebounding in Michigan and school districts as well out of the Great Recession. So I decided to put my hat in the ring. My background is in finance and accounting. I specialize in that. I was a treasurer for a firm in Farmington Hills for a while. Decided that I'd run for office, knew some folks in town, and they encouraged me to do so. Very interesting time for the first 4 years. Worked really hard, really stabilized the finances of the city. Ran again for city commissioner 4 years later, and was appointed mayor pro tem by my colleagues. And then when Jim Ellison left for the state house, my colleagues put me in as mayor, and I just had an election last year
And you won.
and I won.
Congrats.
And so I'm
You're
here
here.
for a while. Yeah,
So how long is your term now?
2 years.
2 years.
2
Got
years.
it.
Yep. So I'll be up for re-election next year.
Awesome. Just so the audience understands, our business, Omega Lending, actually is located in Royal Oak. We are right off Main Street. Salvatore Cusmano actually lives in the city. Our other partner, Chad, lives in the city. So we are very much ingrained in the city, and we're kind of seeing what's happening, Sal, in the city over the past few years. And there's been just a real explosion of development in the area.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I've lived here 6 years now, and even that, I mean, a lot of people, that I talk to are like, oh, man, 20 years ago, and I couldn't even imagine then, right?
Yeah.
But even in the past 6 years, so many new businesses, so much going on. The landscape of the city is changing, and I think you got, a list of projects going on?
Yeah, so I'm going to go through. The three things that I want to talk about today with you is the growth, obviously, of the city. I think it's very notable. That some of your challenges of being mayor and what that's like, just being in that office, because I think that's an interesting concept, even for business people to hear what your challenges are in the public sector compared to the private sector. And then there's a really hot topic that I asked the audience what we should talk about. This Royal Oak Transit proposal.
Sure.
We're going to touch on that. It is just causing just a lot of the things that happens with change and growth. You get a lot of pushback, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's start with the growth, man. I'm going to go through some of these projects that are happening right now. I want the audience to understand the city of Royal Oak has 50,000 basically, or 60,000 residents basically, right? So for 60,000 member community. This is pretty impressive. So I'm going to go through this list. There's a Royal Oak Civic Center that's in a Central Park that's being developed. It's a massive development. It's going to be a 30,000 square foot City Hall building, a new parking garage with 581 spaces, and a new public park. There's an Etkin office building. There's Woodward Corners happening. Hyatt. There's a new Hyatt being built in the city. There's 600 South Main, which is a 77,000 square foot new office space with 19,000 square feet of retail, another 428 spots for parking. The Kinetic Creations headquarters is being built, and also this massive, the Griffin apartment complex, which is 245 luxury apartments. It's going to be 250,000 square feet. It's going to cost $65 million. And there's also the former Citizens Bank, and there's more. I mean, this is just like the major stuff that's happening in the city right now. So there's much more. So talk to me about the growth, and you know, it's over the past 20 years. I mean, it's unrecognizable where Royal Oak was to where it is today. And obviously, that's very planned out and very methodical on how you're doing that. Talk to me about what you or why you believe in the city and the growth that and why it can sustain that much growth.
Yeah, well, you know, first off, like you said, I mean, we're a pretty densely populated community, 60,000 people in 12 square miles. We have a great mix of neighborhoods and people that live here. And Royal Oak has always been a really amazing place to live.
Yeah.
We've had the privilege to be sort of in the center of southeast Michigan, right at the cross section of Woodward, 696, and I-75. So our geography has always lended ourselves throughout our history to be sort of a
It's really
hot spot.
situated well.
It's really situated well. You know, and the projects that you mentioned are really centered around our downtown, but there is a tremendous amount of growth going on in our neighborhoods. Outside the downtown corridor. Beaumont's doing an amazing development, Woodward Corners up near 13 Mile. If you look around, you see new homes going up, homes being refurbished. Kindergarten enrollment is up. We're one of the few cities in the state of Michigan that actually saw population growth, which is a pretty amazing feat considering some of the challenges that our state has faced over the last decade. So people want to be here, and that's really, you know, the core of our strength. So what do? We have to build on that, right? We can't try to be something we're not. A lot of this growth really began back in 2012 when a number of businesses in the community came to us and said, hey, we're struggling. You know, we have online retail that is, you know, starting to emerge and really, you know, capture a lot of the market. We have the emergence of Detroit, which is very exciting for all of us. Ferndale, some of the other neighboring communities that are investing in their downtowns.
Now.
There's competition, which is good. I mean, we should rise with the tide, right? It's not a net sum game. I mean,
Right,
our
you
whole
can't
region.
lay stagnant while other people are competing, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so we said, okay, well, what are we going to do? Let's put together a crew of people made up of our city staff, some elected officials, the DDA, residents, business owners, and we spent some time on the downtown task force and said, okay, what do we need to do to preserve what makes Royal Oak really awesome, which is our really cool, eclectic downtown. And so we decided that we had some underused surface parking lots that we could put out on the market and say, okay, bring us your proposals. And what we've seen since then, you know, we had a goal of 180,000 square feet of Class A office space out of this committee. So we said, look, you know what? Residents come to town. We love seeing our downtown, but that's not enough to keep the businesses going.
Right.
We really need daytime traffic.
Right.
We estimated, okay, 180,000 square feet of Class A office space. So we started moving forward. We hired an economic development manager. We really started to approach this professionally. Not, you know, I mean, this was a
You're not
priority
just
for the
slapping
city.
stuff together.
Not slapping stuff together.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not a huge city, but, you know, we should put some resources into
sure.
making sure we're economically viable. And it wasn't just for the businesses. I mean, if you look at the difference between Royal Oak and maybe some other neighboring communities, the value of our homes, I believe, and I think others believe, that it's really predicated on a vibrant downtown. You know, being close to the downtown, all the excitement that's in our downtown.
Walkability.
The
people-
walkability really brings, you know, value to our homes. And also, given, you know, some of the tumultuous issues we've had with statutes in the state related to how cities can collect taxes and revenues, I mean, we saw a huge drop in revenue as a city, just like every other city did around here. We said, okay, well, this could happen again. So for the next 10, 20 years, we really need a strong economic base. We need people working in the city. We need office buildings. We can't just have restaurants and bars and,
Right.
you know, some retail. We need to really have a good, diverse mix of commerce in our community. And so all of this sort of transcended into what you see today. We had developers come, make us proposals. We engaged with them. we said, okay, let's do some of these projects. And, I'm proud to say that this city has attracted over 300,000 square feet of Class
crazy.
A. I mean, government overachieving, creating a plan, executing the plan,
That's
and then
wild.
overshooting that plan. I mean, that's something that's really unheard of. And that's really a testament to, all the hard work from our city staff, our volunteers, but more importantly, the support of all the residents getting behind this plan. So we're excited. Within a quarter square mile of downtown, we're seeing, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of investment. We're going to bring close to 1,500 to 2,000 well-paying jobs in that quarter square mile. I mean, this is really a big deal. I think this is unprecedented in the region.
For sure. And, and so we deal with the real estate side quite a bit. And we've seen, and Sal and Brad, you guys can talk about this. We've seen the growth of the homes and the values and the redevelopment and the tear downs and people building it. People are investing.
The desire. to be in
There's a
Royal Oak
want,
yes.
right? There's a deep want to live in the area.
Yeah, and I don't know what it was like. You said it started back in 2012.
I do.
I don't know what it was
way
like back
different.
then. I'm not from around here, but I do know what it's like now. And downtown, anytime during the day is the place to be. I mean, there's people walking around. There's always something going on. You've done a lot. It's impressive.
So the audience understands. I mean, for those that remember Royal Oak, I'm going to age myself a little bit right now. Back in the day, Royal Oak was very different. It's a little bit seedier. It wasn't as vibrant. If anybody remembers, yeah, it was. If you remember Brazil's, the coffee shop, I don't know if anybody remembers that. It was an awesome coffee shop. It was very different. And over time, just people started gravitating towards the area because people wanted walkability. People wanted to be in a downtown area. People wanted to be able to live, work, and eat at the same place and play, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a big thing that kind of happened because there's a time where people wanted to go out to the suburbs. And then all of a sudden we saw a contraction. People wanted to be back into a little downtown. And there's a lot of investment on a lot of downtowns around here. To your point, there's a lot of, you've got Berkeley in the same area. You've got Clawson. You've got Birmingham. You've got Ferndale. All these downtowns are really very close to each other. And Royal Oak really has set themselves apart based on the things that are happening.
Yeah, Paul, you touched on something that really we can't ignore. I mean, there is a macroeconomic trend out there that we're seeing all over the world. Anybody that's in the auto industry, I happen to work in the auto industry full time. You see that urbanization is happening. There are generational shifts in people's desires. People aren't necessarily seeking, the large home way out in the middle of the country and commute 4 hours into work back and forth every day and sit in traffic. They value time more than they value money. If you guys are hiring, I mean, sometimes you see that with some of the younger candidates. It's not always about money. It's, okay, how much vacation do I get? Do I have flexibility
Totally
in the
different,
workplace?
yeah.
And those are all good things, right?
Yeah.
But, shifting and understanding that this trend is coming, cities have to get ahead of it. And I think Royal Oak is. The other thing I think that really is a testament to Royal Oak's success is people identify our community a lot with our downtown. Okay, great. We understand people from all over the country, the state, would ever say, okay, Royal Oak has a great downtown. But our neighborhoods are absolutely amazing. Our schools are amazing. And I think what you saw in, after the Great Recession is Royal Oak, for a couple decades there in the 80s and 90s, was really a starter home community. Folks would move in.
Yeah.
There were still families here and everything, but, you saw disproportionate to other communities that, families would move out, buy that bigger home out in the northern part of Oakland County, et cetera. Well, during the Great Recession, I believe that a number of families were, had to stay in Royal Oak. And as they raised their kids got into the schools, they got to meet the neighbors, they got to see that, for example, we have one of the best soccer programs in all of the state. I think it's the second largest and run extremely well. They started to see, oh my goodness, the downtown, okay, that's great.
Right.
I might go there once a week or whatever. But the sense of community, the energy in our neighborhoods, the parks, we have over 50 parks in 12 square miles.
Wow.
People are just, began to re-identify what was important to them in life, and being close to work, being close to all these amenities, I think really helped propel Royal Oak to where we're at today, and is a reason why you see, enrollment up in the schools, you see population growth, and of course you see people every corner investing in their homes and property.
Yeah, Sal, you moved here specifically when you're a millennial. You wanted certain things that probably Royal Oak offered, and really the Royal Oak is really nothing without the community. Let's be honest, right?
Well, when I moved here, I was 22, 23.
Right.
So I moved here to party.
To party.
Essentially, right? Probably like a lot of young people
He
thought,
loves
but
hearing
now
that.
as I grow, we set
But
up
you
a
stayed.
business here, right? And it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, oh, do I want to move to Northern Oakland County or wherever, right?
Yeah.
Away from the city, or why would I?
Right.
Everything's here. There's food, there's schools, there's everything that you could ever want in the city, and it's only growing up, which is exciting.
Yeah.
You know?
It's got all the walkability, and it's really close to, like you said, all the major arteries. It's 696, 75. It's all right there, but it's not all gravy because
Whoa.
there's some problems with Royal Oak too, right?
What do you
some,
mean?
Some issues.
What issues?
Parking.
Oh yeah, I mean I was going to get to that.
With the growth comes some issues.
So obviously this has been in the news, and this is something that I was going to touch on. With all this growth, there's pain, right? It's not easy. People don't really want to like. Some people just are a little hesitant to. They're like, okay, we're good, right? Let's not keep going. Some of the businesses have complained, and it's been in the news about the parking. But to me, and we're in the city. We dealt with it. I've gotten a lot of parking tickets, to be honest with you. Lots of parking
There's a
until we
Facebook
figured
post
out the
out there
parking.
somewhere.
But realistically, that's kind of the price you pay for growth a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, nobody comes to Royal Oak anymore because it's too crowded, right? I mean,
Right.
that's always how we joke.
Yeah.
I think part of it is there is something we need to do as a city, and we're working on it and improving it to make sure people understand where the parking is. We have over 4,000 parking spots within the quarter square
It's just
mile
the ones that
of
we're used to
downtown.
are gone.
The ones that you're used to. I mean, people have this concept back in 1990 when Royal Oak was not, the economic engine it is today,
Right.
that I can just pull up, there'll be 10 spots available in front of the retail outlet, and I'll be able to go and do my business and leave. Or go on a Saturday night, there's 100 spots available. And so, to us, that's not, a good problem, right? The
Right.
problem, when your parking spots aren't full,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
Right.
So, we've invested in parking. Paul, you mentioned we're building a 581 space parking deck. And we got to also plan for the future. I mean, mobility trends are changing. We're seeing more and more, which is a really good thing. We're not writing as many DUIs anymore.
That's good.
Our officers, which is really good.
Thank you, Uber.
Unfortunately, that's been replaced by texting and driving accidents.
Oh,
But it's good that we're not writing those. But what we found is that a lot of people are not only living here and walking to town, but they're also finding Uber and Lyft
Right.
and whatnot to come to downtown, which is great. Cities built around cars are for cars.
Yeah.
Cities built around people are for people. And I think that, dedicating all of our free land in the city for excess parking on Friday and Saturday night is not a good use of community space. Taking some of that land and turning it into green space with a downtown park where we can all get together and have amazing events, et cetera, is great. Taking some of that land, building vertically, and bringing in daytime workers to patronize our businesses so we can patronize them at night and help our small business community be successful is important. And then, of course, to compensate for that, we're building parking decks. So it's a change. Birmingham is almost exclusively parking deck, and
And they still have a parking problem, by the way.
Yeah, and when you build an exciting place,
Yeah.
you're going to have people struggling to find parking, which I don't believe is a terrible situation. And for your listeners that come and visit Royal Oak, all of our parking garages, you come there before 5 o'clock. The first 2 hours are free. You'll never get a ticket if you park in the garage. And if it's snowing out, you can get in your car. There's no snow on your car. It's really great.
But see, people don't even know that. People we didn't even know that. When we work
The
here.
garage is
Yeah.
heaven too.
The garage is
I
awesome.
mean, it's heaven.
And there's a ton of garages.
There's
They're
like
close to
3
everything.
completely empty floors on it
Yep.
every single day, right?
Yeah.
So there's plenty of parking actually for anyone who wants to come here, even on the weekends, right?
Yeah.
But
Nobody wants to go into the parking garage though.
It's
Like,
changing that psychology.
You have to get over that.
Yeah.
And go in and look what it's like.
I mean, the irony is you find people that go to Myers on the weekend to go grocery shopping, and it's a Saturday and the parking lot's full, and they're walking way farther.
You're way farther.
Yeah.
It's just
to
it's
do their
habit.
shopping.
It's
Yeah.
habit. It's what you're used to. It's change. It's always difficult. One thing I wanted to touch on before we move on to the next topic is that Henry Ford just announced a 20-year lease,
Yeah.
and then you build it, which is kind of a big deal, right?
It's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, they're 20 years. They decided we're going to set up roots here and grow within the city. And I don't think, and we see this. Detroit's a good example of this. If you can bring in people that are daytime workers, that's going to really do wonders for the city, the businesses, because they're all going to have to eat. They're all going to have to want to go play, have a drink, right? So talk to me how you feel about that and how that happened.
So, our original thought is that, that building at the Civic Center, the office building, the 140,000 square feet of office space would really be a mix of many different tenants, right?
Yeah.
And that we could always incubate and cycle in different folks that wanted to be part of what's exciting in Royal Oak. Well, when this opportunity came along, we said, okay, this is very interesting. I mean, one, you have a very credible, tenant, a very successful tenant, somebody that's going to be around for a very long
Don't think
time.
they're not going to pay, right?
They're not. Yeah, you're not going to have to worry about them going away.
Right.
They're also bringing a service to our community as we have the silver tsunami hitting all of Michigan, and Royal Oak's no exception. An aging population. Some of these services are going to be tremendously valued by our population. But so we didn't. I mean, I think they're bringing in 200 to 300 full-time workers, which is a little shy of what we thought. But what's more exciting for the services that they're offering, they're going to bring in a couple 100,000 visitors to Royal Oak every year. These are folks that are going to eat at our restaurants. They're going to have additional touch points. They're going to think about, oh my goodness, I'm going to take my spouse here this Friday because Royal Oak is really awesome and happening. And so from a economic perspective, this is really transformed into something I think that's going to be pretty remarkable for our city. And we're very excited and happy. And Henry Ford Health Systems has a great reputation as far as being a community partner. So their philanthropic activity, the engagement that they're going to have with our community is going to be top notch, and we're excited about it.
That's awesome. No, I mean, I'm a big supporter. I mean, I know. Listen, it's happening right behind our office, and when they took away our parking spots, we were like, oh man, what are we like? And they're building, but seeing it happen, and it is exciting.
To me, it's exciting because, I mean, not to knock any business in specific or anything like that, but like as the city grows and people are attracted, like there will probably only be good restaurants that will last, right? And good,
you got to perform,
good spots, right? I mean, it's kind of like it's good competition, and I mean that's just life, right? And I think that ultimately it's going to help the city become even better.
Look, some of the businesses have complained about the parking, but and they said potentially if you have a good business, people will come, right? To me,
but to the same point, you got to acknowledge the business, right? Because they're a major part of the community.
You want to support them.
So what are you guys doing about the business owners that are being inconvenienced by the construction?
So our community engagement specialist, Judy Davids, has been absolutely amazing. We've engaged every single business. We've gone door to door asking what we can do. We had a particular restaurant come to me and say, hey, we could really use some valet parking. We can open it up to the public. This will really help sort of our corner of the city while, we're working on the alley. You know what? Within a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we had that cooking and we got that valet parking in. We had folks that initially saying, hey, we have issues with food delivery, we're going to get parking tickets, et cetera. So we worked with our police department to make sure that those folks would be able to get access to the business without getting parking tickets so they could deliver food throughout the city. So at every step of the way, there are a few businesses, though, that quite frankly never respond to our inquiries, one in particular. And, what can you do? You know what I mean? I think
you can only help the willing.
You can only help the willing, and there are going to be some struggles during construction. I mean, we've all endured this in our personal life, and when you do a big project like this, you're going to endure it as well. But you have to look beyond, the 6 months to a year of construction, and you have to look at the, this one project alone, this one office building that Henry Ford Health Systems is going to occupy. Is estimated to bring in $250 million a year in economic activity for the region.
Wow.
All coming from, most of that being absorbed into Royal Oak. So that's a big deal. So yes, we acknowledge there's issues. We have a crew set up to handle those and work through those. We're going to be launching a new promotion. I don't want to speak too much about it, but in partnership with some of the restaurants and retailers in downtown about, encouraging people to use the parking garages and getting incentivized to do so. We've brought in Lyft. We've comped, $5 on every Lyft ride to come into the city. So we are doing things, but fundamentally, when you look at Royal Oak, and especially when we talk about restaurants, what is it? Across the nation, within the first year, 50% of restaurants fail. Within 5 years, 80% fail, something ridiculous like that.
It's a tough business.
In Royal Oak, you're not seeing anywhere near those numbers, right?
No, they
I'm
thrive.
not saying that restaurants aren't struggling. They're not having to compete with, Detroit and other areas. And they're also competing with the fact that people just aren't going out as much. I mean, it's a different generational thing. They have Facebook, social media. They're playing video games. I don't even know.
You better adapt to the new market,
And so what you find is that this is the whole purpose and some irony of why we have this project here is to bring those people back and into the community while they're working during the day so they can patronize these businesses.
Well, dude, it's like if you're renovating your kitchen in your house, it's gonna suck, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna suck. You're gonna have to like cook in the basement or like figure stuff. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're gonna have a really nice kitchen in your house, right? Anything when you do something like you're basically renovating the city, and it's really nice to see.
And Brad, I would rather be in front of you today talking about the problems of growth than the problems
For
of
sure.
decay. Because if people were saying, look, it takes 20 minutes for the cops to get to my door. My house was once worth $300,000. It's now worth $100,000. There are abandoned homes all over. What are you doing with the abandoned homes? The
Sounds
downtown
vaguely
is,
familiar.
nobody's going to it anymore. If you don't do anything, you're going to have that set of problems. So no matter what, there's going to be challenges in life. Life is a struggle, and at least we're struggling with, the challenges.
These are the
of
right
growth.
problems. These are the
Right,
right problems.
exactly.
To have.
I had one more question about the.
Jesus.
I'm sorry,
You're taking
dude.
over the show.
I mean, this is.
Okay. Go ahead.
It affects
Go ahead.
us.
Yeah, do whatever you want.
So you're talking about neighboring communities and what they're doing and stuff. So downtown Detroit has something really cool. They have two different companies.
I was gonna bring this up. Yeah.
So they have
The
these little scooters.
Yep.
You
Right.
gonna do it?
We're looking into it. Actually,
You
we're getting a
have?
serious look at it.
Really?
Yeah.
They're the coolest thing ever. I mean,
The only problem with them, and just to be fair, is that they're all over the place, right?
that's a
And
good thing.
I know, but at the same time, they're all over the place. You trip over
Yes,
them,
yes.
right? Like,
I see
so
that.
they're really really cool for the audience, just so they understand. There's Bird, and in Detroit, they've really,
Lime or something like that.
but yeah,
I don't know.
they blew up. Basically, what it is it's a scooter. You have an app. You get on the scooter, you ride it to wherever you want. Whenever you get to wherever you want, you just drop it.
You just park
You
it.
just park it and put it against the wall.
Yeah.
It's the craziest
I
thing.
mean,
S-
it's
Sal,
pretty
as,
cool,
as,
but
as a resident, would you like to see all those scooters everywhere?
No. Well,
Because
not
they're every-
really, because I mean, or
But
you're
you could
walking
take one
down,
home.
You're walking down the street and one zips right by you. I mean, you'd almost have to have like a lane for them, and I think that
I think it almost causes more
you
problems.
can walk from
It's not
11
big
and
enough.
Main to the train tracks in 3 minutes.
Right.
So
This
it's
is
kind
in
of like, do I
Detroit.
need
It's
a
not
scooter?
New York,
I
man. I don't see it happening. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But they have quite a distance to them. Like, Sal,
We're like arguing.
you
on this
could
for
take one from your house to the office, and then grab another one when you leave work, go back
Brad,
home, and you
Brad
get paid
just
to
loves
charge it
riding
overnight.
these things. That's all it is. I mean,
You
just
get paid to charge it overnight.
That would
like, that's part of
actually
their
be
model,
pretty
right?
cool.
So like you would never have to like get in your car unless
Except
you
I
were
have to go
going somewhere,
places and
right?
can't take a
All
bird.
right. Well,
So I don't know. I mean,
it's a cool concept, everyone out
cool.
there, but whatever. We'll move on. We got other stuff to talk about. So, Mike, I want to talk to you a little bit about the challenges of being mayor. Right? We went from the private sector to the public sector. There's a lot of different challenges with both, but there's similarities too, right? Talk to us about some of the challenges of like that transition and how you were able to adapt, and then talk to us a little bit about like what you see as challenges in your specific office that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm still in the private sector.
Oh,
I mean,
I
the way
didn't-
way Royal Oak is designed, I mean, it's 60,000 people, but we're really sort of a condo board,
Got
if you
it.
think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
So we're
yeah.
here to oversee. We have a full-time city manager.
Got it.
I'm considered a weak mayor, which means that I'm just one of the commissioners, but I run the meeting, and under certain circumstances.
Is that the actual term, or
Yeah, it's a
week?
weak mayor form of government.
Oh,
yeah,
got it.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right.
so
really
we all
strange.
have full-time jobs. I get paid $40 a meeting, so
Oh.
twice a month. I mean, I get paid $80, but most of that gets spent on babysitters.
So you're
and,
not like the mayor of Detroit where you're getting
no.
oodles of money.
No,
Oh.
no. I mean, this
You
is
still have to work.
I still have to work. I have
Oh.
a mortgage to pay. I got kids to save for college for, and it's really no different than if someone signs up to coach soccer, little league, or belongs to the library board or whatever. I mean,
Got
we're just
it. Okay.
community volunteers.
For some reason, I thought it was just a full-time thing.
No,
for you.
it's not.
Oh.
No.
So you have a day job?
I have a day job.
That's what he's saying, man.
That's it's just registering now. So you're not like in the mayor's office.
I don't
every
even
day.
have an office.
That's
I don't even have an
crazy.
office. My office is my laptop that I bought.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't. I
that's
don't have an
interesting.
office,
Okay,
yeah.
so for a city that's as explosive as Royal Oak, you're a weak mayor.
I'm a weak mayor. Yeah, strong performance, weak mayor.
So how involved
Which
are you
is
in all? I
pretty-
mean, all these projects that are going on. I would assume that the mayor would be heavily involved.
It
in.
seems like a lot of
That's
stuff.
a lot.
Yeah,
to
look,
do.
I'm not. I won't deny it. I mean, it does take away from my personal time. If you ask me what's playing on TV or Netflix, I would have no idea. I mean,
You don't Netflix and chill?
maybe occasionally on a weekend. I mean, now that college football's up, I do make some time to watch my Spartans. But
There you go. Big game.
You know,
coming up.
it's you know, I do have to spend time. I mean, there's a lot of reading, there's corresponding with constituents, and there's meeting with some of the folks that are interested in investing in our community. I mean, I can tell you, Stout Advisory Firm
Built an awesome building.
built
here.
an awesome. Well, Edkin built it. They moved in.
Yeah.
I mean, a world-class firm. They have this is their headquarters. They're
Yeah.
located all over the world. I mean, they're the type of firm that Goldman Sachs hires to do
Yeah.
premium work. I mean,
Right.
that's how good they are. And I got a call that said, hey, they're interested in coming to Royal Oak. So after work one day, I drove down. I went to Southfield, went up the elevator, past a deli and a trading card shop. And I was like, okay, I'm going to use this to sell Royal Oak for sure. Went up, met with their COO, and really started to explain all the exciting things that are going on in Royal Oak.
With
that
passion.
We have a hotel coming in. You're not going to be the only one here. There's a number of projects underway, and it clicked. And next thing you know, they're signing a lease. And I can't say that I had 100% to do with it, but I mean,
You sold your city, though.
I sold my
Yeah.
my job. I took an oath to defend my city, to make sure that everyone in this city is safe, and that their assets are protected, and that we have a good and high quality of life, and we do it the right way. And I also took an oath to be the biggest advocate of my city, the biggest salesperson of my city. And so a lot of the time I spend is working with potential people that are interested in the community. And it's not just developers. It could be hospitals. It could be a lot of it's
All kinds
existing
of stuff,
businesses.
yeah.
What can we do to make people successful, from residents to small business owners in this community? But look, I'm not spending 80 hours a week doing it, and I shouldn't. That's not how our government was designed here. We were designed to have professional managers managing it with an oversight board. But I can't help myself. I mean, if there's an opportunity,
Yeah.
I'm going to go after
Yeah.
it and make sure that our city is always on the forefront of every decision people are making.
One of the coolest things, Sal, is with us working down here and having a business down here, is you can't replicate the energy of a downtown. Like, even though we don't have a massive office, I feel like people would, like, when people want to come and they might want to work at our company, they see what's going on. And it's like basically having a sweet office without it being an office, right?
Right.
You've got all these amenities, and it's not like really like they're not like our stuff. Like, we didn't have to build it out. We didn't have to create all these restaurants. We didn't have to create parks. We don't have to create all this stuff. It is there. So when you even with a small office that we have all these amenities to offer our employees and our guests and,
Right.
and
You
people
don't
we
have
meet
to
with.
worry
We don't
about-
have to worry about the overhead for it.
Right.
No,
Right, or
the
eating
mayor's
in
got it.
the
Yeah.
stuffy
You
cafeteria
guys don't have
in the
to.
office building.
Yeah,
right?
you
The
don't have
deli.
to offer mediocre food and Hawaiian shirt day on
Right.
Fridays.
Yeah.
Although Brad might appreciate that.
He
right?
loves
Yeah.
Hawaiian shirts, actually. Look at him.
No, I don't.
No, you don't.
No.
No, you don't.
That's cool though. The whole way that's set up. I mean, it's kind of like everyone can focus on like the one thing that they're supposed to do, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of tentacles
It's
with that. I
interesting.
assume.
Well,
that could-
and think about it too, Sal. I mean, in my position, I don't have to worry about being reelected for a job, right? My family's income is not dependent on whether or not I'm mayor. So I have the freedom. I don't have that baggage, so to speak, of worrying about my employment. I can work with residents. I can meet with them, talk to them, and make sure that even though whenever you have change, there's going to be resistance, but it affords me the opportunity to really, and all the rest of the commissioners to make and vote the way we believe, we should, based on our values and based on, what the community wants out of the commission,
as opposed to what people want to hear.
as opposed to what people want to hear, worrying about, backing off or whatever, because it might be the right thing to do, but I have to worry about my job. No,
Yeah.
in this particular case, the way Royal Oak, I think, and and then you also get a diverse group of people. Our commission is made up of not just attorneys, but you have a guy like me that, has a treasury, finance, and business development background. You have a public policy person. You have a communications person. So it really creates a situation where we can put our heads together and advance the city without, worrying about, are we going to have a job next year?
Yeah.
Right.
And Mike, right now, so this is a different side of it. So in our political times where the politics are so polarizing in today's world, and you're in the political sphere on some level, do party politics play a role in your day-to-day, or is that not even existent? Is it just very bipartisan and you guys just agree, or are there real divides as far as party politics?
Look, I could say it's becoming more and more partisan as time goes on. I mean, all of the positions, the city commission and the mayor, are nonpartisan ballots. So when you go to vote, you won't see an R or a D or
No,
an I
right,
or
okay.
anything when you vote for mayor. However, and I'd like to pride myself in all of my campaigns. I mean, my first campaign, I was endorsed by the former chair of the Oakland County Republican Party and the current chair of the Oakland County Democratic Party. So we have a history
awesome.
of making sure, and
Thank
it's,
God.
and
That's awesome.
We try to carry
It's
that spirit
refreshing.
forward
Yeah.
to have, because we don't have, as mayors, I was just at the South Oakland County Mayors Association, Republicans, Democrats, whatever. We all get along. We all care about the region. Partisan politics shouldn't play a role. But you're finding with the national and state narratives that it's almost difficult to avoid it. And there are some folks out there in our community that try to
I'm sure they
divide
ask,
and conquer. And
Mike, is he a Republican?
Is he left? Is he
or
right?
Is he a Democrat?
Right. Where
And
is he?
That will sway their vote.
and I
Doesn't
knock
matter.
lots of doors. I've knocked thousands of
He's a
doors.
community advocate.
I mean, I've had people chase me off their porch, by saying, I talk, hey, Mayor Fournier, I'd like to talk to you about what's going on in the community, what's on your mind, and they could care less, or like Republican or Democrat.
Right.
And depending on the answer, I see that I still have my sprinting legs in me.
Yeah.
And some people don't care. Some people, it
Well,
doesn't
you can't
matter
make
what their
everyone
party.
happy, right? And,
Right.
To that point, how do you handle the criticism? You get being in you're in the public eye, and your decisions like affect people, and you get a lot of criticism for that, one way or the other.
Yeah. So immediately upon being elected, and if you've never been part of public office, it might be difficult to
won't be.
understand. But immediately
You'll
upon
never
being
make it.
elected, there are people out there that automatically have a distrust for government. They are skeptical of everyone's motives. They don't want to see change. They don't want to understand the big picture. They only care about what benefits them, et cetera. And that's something that initially was a challenge to deal with. But I think, exercising great patience, understanding that, this is a brother or sister in front of me, right? And I'm not going to judge them. They may even say things to me that, are terrible in nature. But you try to look through it, at least I do, and say, okay, where's this person coming from? What is really bothering them? And can I help them? Are they willing to be helped? Can we resolve this issue for them? You can't take it personal, And a lot of times what I find is I might get a scathing email full of curse words and, accusations. And when I reply back and say, hey, I'm sorry you feel this way, here's where I'm coming from. Here's the data we looked at. Immediately the attitude changes that, wait a minute, my elected officials just aren't some, group of people like zombies.
They're not
out to get
fictitious.
me.
Yeah.
They're people, they're dads, their moms,
Yeah.
their brothers or sisters. And I think that goes a long way. So making sure that, you don't engage and that you really, and you don't judge people, and people get angry. And if you have an empathetic ear to even those who, oppose everything, and try to understand where they're coming from, that doesn't mean you agree with them. Right. Doesn't mean that you capitulate to all of their demands if it's not in the best interests of the community. But still, having that empathetic ear, goes a long way, and it takes time. It takes practice.
I mean,
it takes
most-
commitment.
Most wins come from putting yourself in the other person's shoes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And
That's-
if they
that's
can
a-
get into
yeah.
yours, then it's okay.
Right. It's like,
We
I
agree.
get it. Like, I get that you don't want this in your backyard. I totally if I were you, I'd probably be up here as well. But understand, as mayor, I'm not just accountable to you. I'm accountable to 60,000 people that call this place home.
Yeah.
And,
It's
if
tough.
78% of the people believe we should do this,
Gotta follow that. Right?
yeah, I mean, this is how representative democracy works.
Yeah. So just, that's a good segue, I think. So this was a very hot topic. Last thing I want to talk about, this Royal Oak transit proposal is causing people are some people are all up in arms. So let me just explain it. It's going on the ballot on November 6th. It'll increase mass transit in Royal Oak. It's a 5-year, $1.2 million proposal. It'll cost $4.8 million to operate per year. Smart buses will contribute $300K. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. So you're basically looking at 25 bus shelters, 168 bus stops. Basically, what this is doing is creating more mass transit within the city that potentially people can use to get around the city. To your point, as people get older, they can use the mass transit. They can get on the bus. They can go to the zoo. They can go to the hospital. It gives them more options within the city. But the pushback is that people don't think the cost is worth it, and there are some really visceral responses to this proposal. So talk to the audience why you believe in this proposal and why you think it's a good thing for the city as opposed to not doing it, right?
Yeah. So a little bit of a history lesson. I mean, the RTA has been a big topic here in Southeast Michigan for a while. And the couple times it's been on the ballot, we've seen that Royal Oak voters have consistently, in a strong majority, voted for transit. Okay, so as an elected official, I have to listen and hear what our residents are saying, right? They're saying, look, we value transit. We understand the value it brings to our property. We understand the value it brings to our neighbors who may have limited mobility. And so that really was the genesis of us saying, okay, what can we do better as a community to make sure that people can age in place, that people can live here, that we're not dependent on cars, and that, you know, we can thrive as a community. And it's not so uncommon. I mean, towns of 50,000, Saginaw has public transit, you know, smaller than Royal Oak. I mean, there are a number of communities, mid-size, 60,000, 70,000, that have public transit. So we said, okay, well, let's consult SMART, see if there's any opportunities here. Is this something we should explore? Fast forward, it evolved into a task force of business owners, people that knew a little bit about public transit, and some other different representatives to say, okay, what would a plan look like in Royal Oak? What would it achieve? How would it help? They came with this plan. They came in front of the city commission. They said, look, in order to make this work, we need 1.25 mils. SMART can be the manager of it, which is great. SMART allows us to get all the federal and state funding we need to really offset a lot of the costs. But we still need, you know, we're adding routes and for the benefit of Royal Oakers. So, you know, we have to compensate that. So I think that the plan that we have in place, I mean, people look at it, okay, it's going to increase my tax. You know,
That's the big thing. Yeah.
$8 a month, $7 a month. I mean, for me, it's going to be, I just put
Is that the increase?
So
Is that what
it's,
we're talking about?
Well,
Depends.
1.25 mils.
it's
right?
1.25 mils,
So,
but depending on your taxable value, I mean, if you've lived in your
let's say you
house
have
for
a
20 years.
$200,000 house, right? It's $125 a year.
Yeah, and a lot of those
Roughly.
$200,000 houses, if you've lived in it for, you know, 20 years, you know, your taxable value is much lower than what it should be.
But if you just bought your house,
If you just bought your house, then yeah, divide it by 2 and multiply it by 1.25. For me, I put a number of renovations in my house finally. My wife said bunk beds are not an addition. So we tapped into the savings. Now I can't retire in 2 years. I got to retire in 30. But, you know, for me, it's going to be much more expensive, I think, than the average taxpayer just because I reset my taxable value when we put an addition onto my house. So
Yeah.
you know, the amount, and I get it. People, the first question they ask is, how does this benefit me? I'm not using the bus. You know, I don't see a return on investment. But that's not the nature of taxes. I've never called an ambulance, thank God. Thank God I've never called the ambulance, right? But I do know I pay for that in my property tax. And I do know I've had neighbors on my street. Thank God that ambulance is there. Thank God we have one of the best EMS services in all of the state. You know, in 2-3 minutes, they're at the hospital getting the treatment they need. Because I've never called, you know, for those services doesn't mean I don't want to pay for them, right? So
if you ever need them, you want them to be there.
you ever need them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have
like
to look
insurance.
at too. So let's just say it's 10 years, right? $1,250, right? On my little calculation there. Does that bring the value of your house up $1,250, right? And likely it does with everything that it offers,
Yeah.
allowing people to come into the city through the mass transit, allowing people to come downtown, building the values of the city. Yeah.
I mean,
it
in general,
translates to
Sal,
value.
in general, I mean, our research shows, I mean, look, every situation is unique, but in general, look at the homes along public transit lines in Virginia and D.C. and New York, New Jersey, I mean, all over the place. If people have access to transit, yes, it is going to increase the value. It's a feature that whether they use it or not, people know that it's going to bring value to their home, and that translates. There's not a direct calculation. But I would even argue, too, I mean, we just had a conversation about parking, right? If we have 300 people use the transit system, if we have 300 people use the transit system every night, you know, on Friday and Saturday night, use the routes, that helps the city avoid paying for another $15 million parking garage.
That you
So
can build something else
You
on,
could build something else
right?
with. So we have to look at it not just how do I see a personal ROI, but how does my community benefit at large? And then there are the moral benefits, right? We have seniors. We have a senior transportation program right now that has some limitations on it. It's a call for service. You know, the hours aren't great. And how can we expand that program? And this will afford us the opportunity to expand those options. We have folks that don't want to drive, can't drive. We have people that work in our city. You guys see it in the downtown. Maybe they can't live in Royal Oak, but they're coming from Warren, Madison Heights. They can get
Or a lot
to,
farther.
or a lot further. They can get into the city affordably, not tie up parking, and you know get there on time. And they're excellent workers. And so our businesses downtown can recruit some of the best workers because they have access to our downtown. So there are moral benefits, there are economic benefits, and arguably, Sal, you know, if you want to look at a personal return, I mean, the data shows that in general, your home values will go up.
So
Right.
with the transit, is it going to be only a City of Royal Oak kind of circuit, or will it extend out into other communities?
Well, I think
like
it's putting it on the stops of the mass transit,
Yes.
right?
So what we have is we have Smart right now,
Yeah.
and think of it as adding a couple extra routes to Smart with more frequent stops along the areas that Royal Oak has high density population, so it leans 60,000 people in 12 square miles. We have a middle school, a high school, Oakland Community College, the zoo, Beaumont, a number of businesses on the Woodward corridor, a vibrant downtown. And so, we naturally lend ourselves to adding a couple additional routes. I think what you'll find is if we do this right, that you'll have other neighboring communities. And I've already had discussions privately with some of the mayors saying, well, we'd probably be interested in tapping into this, sort of having our own mini RTA in Southeast Oakland County. But we're not going to wait. I mean, this is a debate that is influenced heavily by, some political dilemmas. But for us, we, our people wanted it. They voted for the RTA several times. We can see the direct benefit, and then we're putting it to the voters to see, what they feel about it. So,
and ultimately, that's what it is, right? You're taking information and you're saying this is good. We believe it's good. Let's put it on the ballot. It's not as if you're choosing to do it yourself, right? You're giving people the option to vote on it.
Right.
It's you're not making the choice.
I personally see the value in it.
Yeah.
Some others don't. And I think some of the points of contention, people are attacking the city commission. How dare you put this on the ballot? It's like, well, you may not believe
just rather
in
make the decision for you.
Yeah. You may not believe in the intelligence of our voters, but I do. I knock thousands of doors. I talk to our voters day in and day out. We have really smart, compassionate people in this community, and I trust them with a decision like this. So
the reason I asked if there was going to be more like stops outside of the City of Royal Oak, if it's going to go to Troy or whatever, is that if it's big enough, is there a way to tap into the county to help alleviate some of the millage?
So
as a resource?
So that's how it's designed. So Smart Bus is still Smart Bus, right? And you can get to Troy, you can get all over. But as you get closer to Royal Oak, instead of having the stops every mile or half mile and coming every hour, what we said is here's some routes that will really connect from Myers to Beaumont or whatever. We designed the routes to where you get picked up every 15 minutes, and the routes are more, your stops are quarter mile, let's say. So like a real transit system following best practices. Well, Smart said we can't do that. We don't have the money to do that. So you're going to have to feed into the system. But by leveraging Smart as the manager, we're saving money. Smart also has the authority to bring in state and federal funds. So to do a program like this by ourselves would cost 3 times the amount. But because we're using Smart, even the purchase of the buses Smart's buying, and if for some reason in 5 years this passes and for some reason it doesn't work, that's not an absorbed cost by the city. Those buses, Smart will just bring them back into their fleet, and we can. We paid
You're
for
not
what we
paying
used on the
for
bus.
right. That's just being added on by them. Right.
I feel like that would be a big win to educate more voters out there. Like this would normally cost us $4 million, but because of the way we're doing it, we've got it down.
Right.
It's like it's sale to them, right? That might help.
Yeah, you're getting a great value.
You're a great salesman.
I'm just saying it.
No, it's a good point, Brad.
All people think of is the 1.25 mils, but really it should be 4 or 5 mils.
Yeah, you're getting 4 mils of value for 1.25.
Right.
Listen, we struggle with this in our business all the time. Do we spend money to make money? Do we do this? You've got to look at the benefits outweighing the costs and how it's going to work out. So, we're running out of time. So I want to give you an opportunity, just in your words, a couple things that I think about is, what do you believe Royal Oak's character is today? Where is it going? And if you were to impart any words to the audience that you want them to hear, obviously this is your opportunity.
Yeah, so Royal Oak, I always like to say we're a cross-section of America. We pride ourselves on having diversity both in terms of culture, economic status, and even, bringing in a whole myriad of visitors to our community every year. We have strong neighborhoods, beautiful neighborhoods. We're a community built of with really neighborhood identification, even though our downtown gets a lot of the attention. And, I think we embody the values of progress in this city. And that's not just economic development. It's progress and leadership in terms of, making sure what we do is for the right reasons, the right moral reasons, making sure what we do is for the right economic reasons, but also making sure what we do, we're setting, ourselves up for our children and our grandchildren to make sure that they have a place to call home here in Royal Oak. So it takes work, it takes effort. Change is difficult. Doing nothing also has its consequences as well, like we discussed. But really exciting times. And Royal Oak is on the right path, and we look at ourselves as a leader in this region, and hopefully others can learn from our journey.
Well, I will tell you, as a group, I know we love working in Royal Oak. Sal loves living here. He tells me all the time how great it is, and we love being a part of the community. So thank you for your service. One last thing, Mark Wahlberg is going to be in town. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. I've had the opportunity to meet him a couple times. We trade 6-pack stories.
Yeah.
Mine's
He's
in
a
the
dude's
fridge,
dude.
his is on his
Yeah,
stomach.
he's a
but,
dude's
it's-
dude. Yeah, so that's exciting. There's going to be a Wahlburgers here for the audience if they didn't know. So thank you, Mayor Mike Fournier. Sorry, I screwed that up. So thank you for being on the show. We really do appreciate your support. It means a lot to us.
Hey, well, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. You guys are great guys, and appreciate your time this morning.
Awesome. So thank you, everybody. Obviously, again, subscribe to our show. It helps us out a lot. Listen in next week. We've got real producers of Oakland County Magazine, the publishers, Tara and Chris Chody on the show. Sal, that's it, man.
That's it.
You look fantastic. I mean, both of you guys look really good today. I don't know what. I mean, is it because the mayor was in? You think?
We just had to step it up to match you.
Yeah, I bring the baseline down.
Yeah. Everybody, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day. Jessica, have a good day too. We miss you. We haven't talked to you in a while.
You too.
Love you. Bye.
You've been
That
listening
outro's
to
so
Inside
soothing.
Real Estate, the nation's top real estate podcast. Don't forget to follow us at irepodcast.com and everywhere where podcasts are available.